How's the volume in the back? Can somebody give me a what? we got a rock on. All right. It's not that kind of show tonight, unfortunately. Thank you all for being here. It's exciting to see the Grange so full, and food systems is something I care deeply about, and I think you all care deeply about, and these panelists care deeply about, and so I'm really excited for this conversation. So thank you for being here and filling up the Grange. My task for the night is just to very briefly set the scene and I'll just give a few statistics pulled from a few spots that hopefully give us a foundation for kind of why we need to have a conversation about food systems and access to quality food. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and read these off so they're really clear. First, in Okanagan County, about 16% of the population lives below the poverty line, which is below $27,500-ish per year for a household, which is significantly higher than the Washington State poverty rate of 10%. 60% of households who live and work in the Methow make less than $55,000 per year, according to the Twisp Comprehensive Economic Study. And then the cost of food, as we're all aware, has been rising. Many of us here are feeling that as grocery store prices increased 11% from 2021 to 2022. And also the price of everything else, right? And so like this economic reality of how we buy our food is also influenced by things like housing. Within our school district, 40% of kids qualify for free and reduced lunches. And so that's sort of the backstory for working class people in the Methow. And then on top of that, we have a large number of incoming remote workers that are making significantly higher wages. A median wage among remote workers of $202,000 per year, which is about 5 times that of the average household. And so that's, I think, indicative of this sort of growing income gap that we face in the Valley. And we're really fortunate that those with money are often really supportive and community-minded, but it also opens up questions about, how do those people in that 60% of families, making less than $55,000 a year, how do they make decisions about where to get their food and how to support our local growers? And then the last thing I'll say, just because, like I say, I feel like the entire economic context influences this conversation, and that's that in 2021, median list price of homes here was nearly $500,000, more than 8 times the median income. And it's not a perfect metric, but people say, if a median home price is about 3 times median income, you're kind of in the realm of affordability. So I think it's safe to say that we are not, which bleeds into all of our other economic decisions. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to Maria Hines, our moderator for tonight, and she'll roll into some quick introductions.
Thanks, Bridger. Appreciate it. Thanks, Methow Conservancy, for putting this on tonight. My name is Maria Hines, and I'll be moderating tonight. I just recently started a nonprofit called Blue Sky Mines with the vision of focusing on our sustainable food system for all of Okanagan County. So it kind of leads into this conversation. So thanks for inviting me to moderate the panel. And then we'll go down the line here and everyone can introduce themselves. Thank you so much for being here on the panel, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from everyone here. There's an incredible lens, incredible skill sets on this panel right now on this topic, so I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Let's start with Ken.
All right, does that sound okay in the back? Looks like it. All right, so hello everyone. I'm Kim Romain-Bondi, and thank you for having me tonight, Bridger, for an invitation. And I'm the director for Classroom in Bloom, which is a nonprofit organization it basically works with school farms. And mainly we have a 2-acre campus here, or we have 2-acre farm on the Methow Valley School District campus, and we also work with school districts throughout all of Okanagan County. And I'll just give a little bit more about myself. I think most people know what Classroom in Bloom is. I think that'll come up more in conversation, but I'm a home gardener. I grow a lot of the food for my home, my family, and that's everything from animals to storage crops and just food throughout the whole year as much as possible. And I have a career in wildlife biology for 25 plus years. And really I've been working for Classroom in Bloom for about 6 years, and I felt like that was my full circle, is being able to bring together education and native plant and wildlife communities, as well as kind of a farming world, and work with students and bring really healthy food and healthy choices to the kids in our community. So that's kind of just my story in a very short nutshell. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Casey Smith, and I'm with BCS Livestock and the Methow Valley Foodshed. And BCS Livestock is our farm where we raise grass-fed lamb and beef and sell meat here locally. And the Methow Valley Foodshed is an online farmers market where we sell products that are produced in the Methow, and we use a weekly pickup, so any farmers that want can list their products in our online store, and then we pack individual customer orders each week, and customers can then pick them up at any time that's convenient for them. And I'm just excited about local food systems, and so thanks for inviting me to be here.
Hi, I'm Kelleigh McMillan, and thanks so much for hosting this and having this conversation. I'm really excited to see what comes out of this tonight. And I live about 3 miles up Twisp River Road, and I've had the good fortune of living up Twisp River and growing food for 25 years up there. And I've gotten to do a lot of different things in that time, and I'm excited to be part of this evolving conversation, and just having a lot of new energy in the room and in the valley. And I work at the Independent Learning Center with teenagers. I'm the internship coordinator, and so I'm connecting teens with their areas of interest and future work. I'm a mom of 2 college-age students, which I still can't really believe. And I'm here tonight to represent the Methow Valley Farmers Market. I'm the vice president on the board of the market, and I think many of you are familiar with our little gem of a farmers market here. So happy to bring that into the conversation. Thanks.
I'm Glenn Schmekel, and I'm the executive director of the Cove Food Bank. And they said, we're going to have a meeting tonight on this snowy night. And I said, oh, there'll be 5 or 6 people here. That'd be great. All right. I'm thankful to be here. My little personal history, 50 years ago, I retired from teaching in Southern California and moved up to the Methow Valley to live off the land. And after a year or 2, I discovered why they call the acreage I lived on Poor Man Creek. Anyway, 25 years ago, I started the Cove Food Bank, and I'm the executive director of that, and we're busy with many different things. And so that's a big part of my life still after this 50 years. I'm married. I combined family of 7 children, 22 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren. Love the Methow, and so happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. I think 25 years is kind of a theme up here right now. My name is Kelleigh Edwards. I'm the managing director at Room 1, and we are having our 25th anniversary this year also. Something was going on in the valley about then. But we're also a nonprofit local social services organization, really here offering wraparound support services for anyone in the Methow Valley, but really primarily focusing on, for us, about 50% of the community members we support who come through the doors are at that poverty level and below. The other half are really working folks, folks that are living here, working here, may have been here for multiple generations and are just finding it exceptionally hard to make ends meet right now. When I look out on the audience, it feels like almost any one of you could also be up here on this panel. So including my team, who's here from our produce program with Room 1. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're gonna have with you later today, tonight. But I do wanna mention regarding food, for 15 years now, we've had a fresh organic produce program at Room 1, and Kelleigh McMillan started that with her Red Shed farm 15 years ago, and Stephanie and Lori have kept it going over the last several years, and really that allowed us to pay growers real money. It wasn't about asking growers to donate food, because growers are part of our ecosystem who needed to have a livelihood as well. So it was about finding grant money originally, and then working with just our general operating funds now to support purchasing fresh local produce from farmers and local producers, and getting that out to community members who can't otherwise access fresh food. And this summer we were able to distribute about 1,500 pounds of food to the community, and we just put a cooler out on our porch, and folks can come by anytime during the week to get what they need. So there's more we can share about our partnership with the farmers market. That's been really exciting, but we'll pause on that until we tell later.
All right, thank you all very much. Well, we have the first question, which is, what does a thriving local food system look like, and what seems missing? And we'll contain it to the Methow Valley. And I'm gonna leave it, it's an open forum, so whoever wants to field the question, and then just feel free to riff off of that.
Well, I'll start off with something. Working with the food banks in the county and stuff, we just had a meeting this last week. They said, you people in the Methow, you do everything together, you raise more money, you share, you work together. What goes on over there? And so, hey, we love the Methow. So this is one of our positive things of what's going on. We're cooperation, interested, and creative people. They came up here for different reasons. If it's back to the earth or whatever we call ourselves, or getting just to know our community, I think that's a real wonderful thing that goes on. A need I see is, how do we look ahead? What is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. Are we going to wait for necessity, or are we going to begin with invention and how to take care of ourselves?
I can build on that, just because it's true that I think the Methow Valley, really uniquely of any place I've lived, has been able to address some pretty complex and knotty issues, knotty K-N-O-T-T-Y. Though maybe we could take on some knotty issues too. But because I think folks are just really interested in seeing our community thrive, and really seeing everyone here in the community thrive, not just a few of us, because I think there's just some common shared understanding around, if we all can't thrive, then none of us really can. And I think just this partnership that I mentioned with the farmers market being one of them, thinking we have this gorgeous farmers market, incredible produce that's here, but really we could see at Room 1 that not many of our folks felt either comfortable or able to go over there, certainly not having dollars to spend over there. And so we worked together in partnership with the farmers market to get an EBT program going at the market, so that folks could use their public food benefits there, and that growers, we had 22 producers who accepted our EBT cards, and were able to really get, again, more cash in the hands of our local producers, and more people from our community who don't normally access that incredible resource. We could get them there and support them in that. So just an example of how those creative partnerships work.
Thanks, Kelly.
I think we do really have a thriving community of producers and growers, and there's a lot of different ways that people market their products, and they seem to be really successful. And in Bridger, I really appreciate the context you gave at the beginning of the conversation, because there are so many different issues to weigh in terms of our economy and how customers and growers are affected by all of the different things at play. And we've seen a continued influx of people interested in growing food here over the years since I've been here, and that's always been a really rich part of this community. And when we think about what's missing, I'm concerned that we're missing, or going to be missing, access, a path into this community as a young person, as a farming person. And I'm just worried about how we're going to address that. And so that's something I would like to talk more about this evening and hear other people's thoughts, is how do we maintain an open door to people that want to continue this type of work.
Thanks, Kelly.
One thing at the Foodshed that we're really working on is trying to find ways for producers to market enough product so that they can make a full-time living wage income, and then like a living wage income for the Methow from their farm. And I think that can be a challenging balance to strike, because we do have this really diverse community here where there's people willing to buy local products, even if that requires spending a little bit more money. But when, in order to make a full-time living wage income off your farm, you have to sell a certain quantity, and that's kind of, you quickly run out of people in the Methow. There's a lot of influx, or maybe people are here seasonally, but not consistently buying locally grown products. And so we're working on expanding our distribution from just here locally, but to kind of the greater north central Washington area, to give producers a way where they don't have to be all driving products out of the valley to reach larger markets, because then you spend half your time just trying to deliver products and can't be in the field. And so kind of by centralizing that and providing a way for multiple farm products all to go out together, hopefully that will provide a path for producers to be able to sell more product while being in the farm fields more.
Thanks, Casey. Important and really important perspective coming from the growers, so thanks.
I'll just chime in a little bit, not to diverge from that, because I think we're going to come back to that. It's such an important conversation. But one of the things through Classroom Bloom that, again, when we're talking about what exists in the Methow Valley, like where we are in a really creative and positive space. Annika's here. Annika and Lexi started Classroom Bloom 20 years pretty much this year. This coming year is 20 years, 2020. Okay, 19 years. She's looking at me and she's nodding her head. So 19 years ago, Kelleigh's been doing Red Shed with the teens through the ILC for so many years. And really a lot of what we're trying to do is build young farmers. We want people to we want our kids to understand where their food's coming from and how important our ecosystem is to growing food and eating healthy. And so I would give the Methow Valley a huge amount of accolades for the creativity that has gone on here for decades. And that creativity has led to, Casey, you're a graduate from Libertyville High School, and that's a great example. Here's a living example right here of like, hey, I don't know if Classroom Bloom did that for you, but yeah, maybe his parents, I guess.
I was there too at the beginning of Classroom Bloom. I think I helped set the fence posts and building the fence.
All right, so maybe his parents played a big part in that, but I think that our children are a big part of this, and I think about the longevity and the history of where we come from, but then the longevity of where we're going. And the more that our children are supported and understand the effect that they're having with eating and growing local food, the more that I do believe that we're going to have that next level or that next generation of creativity that comes in. We're in it right now, and we can do so much for the next decade, and then they're going to step in at some point too. So I think the more exposure that our students get, that our children get, the more that we're going to see positive effects into the future. So that's at least the positive of, I think, what we've had going for us for quite some time, and into the future as well.
That's great. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. So we'll get ready to move on to the next question there. You know, I think I want to chime in and what I've noticed as a newcomer here, you know, just here in the past couple of years full time in the Valley is that we have 42 nonprofits in the Methow Valley, which is incredible. It's really inspiring. There's that many people that's so motivated to care for their community and come together. It's really, really inspiring to see what can be done. And especially, you know, we're in a rural area. Okanogan County is the poorest, most distressed county in Washington State. And to see a community come together to care for everyone and, you know, build something that creates access to services is really amazing. The one thing that I think I'm concerned about that feels missing is the incentivizing our future farmers. Like, what does their future look like? You know, if you're having a hard time making a living wage and you have climate change, so it's messing with your growing season, you know, these sorts of things, it doesn't incentivize you to get into the field and have this be something that you want to carry on. So I think that's something that, you know, I'd like to see us address here the next few years. All right, so we're going to move on to the next question. This question is going to be a little crunchy. I'm really curious to see, you know, what comes out of it, what sort of creative solutions or inspirations come out of this. But the question is, when income gaps that are increasing in our valley, what are the creative ways to close that access gap to food? You know, high value, high quality food products, and doing it in such a way that the farmers are, you know, are still making a living wage. What are the creative ways that we could go about doing this? And we're talking more about that middle, right? Like when we're talking about this socioeconomic gap that we're seeing happen in the valley right now, we're talking more about the middle, you know, in that 27,000, you know, 40,000, 50,000 range. Like, how do we creatively create access to good quality local, you know, locally produced products? Yeah, it's a tough one, huh?
This might speak to part of your question, Maria, because access to fresh food, I think there are a couple creative solutions, and one of which has come from the first people of the Methow Valley, the Methow tribe, the Methow people who were here, and the idea of hunting, fishing, foraging as the way to get your food and feed your family and store enough for the winter so that you can take care of yourself. I think that's always been part of the Back to the Land movement that came in here in the 70s. And I think just not losing sight of the role that plays in our whole food system, hunting, fishing, foraging, and just remembering the skills that it takes to know how to do all those things and process all that food yourself or in a community where you can do it together. Those are skills that many in this valley have and can continue to be shared. And then the other way that people have talked about and asked for, you know, folks that live in spaces or work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, they don't have a lot of time to do a lot of those things themselves. But if they had access to a community garden, and I know, you know, some of our neighbors have made their gardens available to have other neighbors garden with them. And if everybody does a little, then everybody just does a little, and you can have a smaller section of a growing plot where you can grow that food for your family, as many of you do. So those were just a couple of the things. Community gardens and remembering some of the skills and teaching some of the skills about processing food so it can be stored are some of the things that could help.
That's great. Thanks, Kelly.
Now, the Cove Food Bank, our purpose is to deal with that gap. And so we're dealing with the lower 10%, the people that come in, and like every week, like last week, there were 74 households that come in for food. So we have the food and helping with the kids, but how do we expand and get this quality food? We have just an example. I love the fact that people that are low income can have quality stuff. I love the fact that our local coffee makers grind up and give us fancy stuff, fancy coffee, because that's not available for somebody on a fixed income and totally low income, even that. I remember a few years back, there was a challenge to live. Can you live for a month? Here's the challenge on the daily amount of food stamps amount. It came to $2.80 a day per person. So I said, I'm going to take that challenge. I lasted a week, wasn't able to function, couldn't meet with people to have a cup of coffee because it cost $3.50 for a cup of coffee. That was more than my daily allotment. And so when people would say, oh, I'm complaining about all this stuff that people get, no, that's not true. People are really in need and coming together. So quality things, like people that grow things, we have a program we call Grow a Row for the Cove. We give you some seeds if you agree to grow an extra row and turn it into the cove for that, so we have fresh stuff. But it's a way anybody can do that, and grow a row, and we get the fresh stuff. But we're not growing, we're not producers. We're just helping those, our neighbors in need.
That's such a great program, Glenn.
Yeah, I feel fairly stumped by this question. It feels like a newer question because to borrow the term from Kelleigh, the missing middle is just becoming more and more of a center of our conversations. And we've seen it in housing, and the Methow Valley again has come together and really done some great problem solving around housing and continues to. And so I think if we can figure it out around housing, we can probably figure it out around food. But I don't know exactly what that means. I love the idea of community gardens that, especially like right in town, that people who live in town could access. But I really believe that those need a staff person, if not part-time, full-time staff person to really oversee that and make sure that it's a success. We've had a couple of community gardens in Twisp that haven't succeeded because they haven't had that point person. So I'd love to see that in our town. I think Twisp is right for that. But as far as, people having like a sliding scale access, whether it's, with the Foodshed or CSA, Kaylin, who I don't know if she made it tonight, shared some of her thoughts with me on these topics, and she, talks about how you can pay into their CSA program and buy a share for somebody, and so just, increasing models like that so that people could maybe, approach things with more of a sliding scale. But I don't know how you give full value to the farmer while making the price lower for the middle income customers. But perhaps there are some privately sourced subsidies that I'm not aware of that could help with that. I think having an organization like what you just mentioned, the Blue Sky Hines, having an organization that has that as their main focus is maybe in a position to uncover those types of funds. But yeah, where that gap closer comes from, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
One thing that we are been trying at the Foodshed, which is by no means an ultimate solution, but just sort of a tidbit of help, is we have one of our items that we list for sale as a give to the Cove donation. And so our customers can purchase that, and then we use those dollars to buy products from the producers that sell through the Foodshed. And this next week, actually, we'll do our donation, and we have a bunch of frozen and storable products that we'll purchase from local producers to drop off at the Cove. And it's been pretty popular. I'm always amazed at how much our customers are willing to just donate that way. And also I've had similar thoughts, kind of what Kelleigh was saying, and especially through the online store makes it possible to have a sliding scale for different customers, and because each customer has like an account with a unique login for them, and so you can set that up with individual pricing, but for each customer or customer group. But it kind of still comes back to the same question of like, how do you pay the farmer then, and finding that balance is tricky.
Well, I think I'm gonna reach out just on the student level, especially the elementary school students, just because they're very accessible at a school. And so a couple things that Classroom in Bloom has been striving towards, we serve all, like every student who attends the school district. I will exclude ILC because they work directly with Red Shed, but so at the Liberty Bell and at the Methow Valley Elementary School, the students are in the garden, have the opportunity to be in the garden. It's actually once a week for elementary school students, so once a week for a whole semester. And they go through the entire cycle. So if you're a second grader going into third grader, you would come out as a second grader in the spring, and you go all the way through as a third grader into the fall. So you're planting your seeds and you're harvesting your fruit at the same, in one full year cycle. There's a couple different aspects of closing the gap besides, like, yes, you're serving every child, and that's really an important piece of the puzzle. And that's really what the instigus of moving out into Okanagan County as well, is that every school is then hitting every single student. And when we know that 40% of the students here in our Methow Valley School District are on a free reduced lunch program, or in a state of some sort, their families are in a sense of, or in a poverty family household, under that 55,000 is the amount that their family would make. That's an important aspect, and what's really important about that school garden experience is that it doesn't matter if your family makes a lot of, has that $200,000, but you've never seen a farm before because you've just been served the best food, or if you live on a working farm, but you eat poor quality food because you're not getting that necessarily in your household, and you're not, you're just under the poverty line. So there's all these different aspects of the children that you're serving. And we've done a couple different things, and we are very open and excited about any opportunities to serve the students in higher capacity. And that might be growing more food over the years. We expanded from 0.75 acres to about a 1.5 acres in actually growing capacity over the last 5 years or so. And that food is now being stored in the root cellar on campus. And so do we just grow more carrots so that we can actually have a snack program that every student gets a carrot once a week? And it sounds little if you get a carrot, but for some kids that's their snack. Like, that is exactly what they get, and it's something different than goldfish or, just the snacks that you get from a household that maybe that's all you would have on a regular basis. So just trying to think about, again, those healthy, that fresh food. Children love to eat the food they grow. There is no doubt about that. And if anyone has not been to Classroom in Bloom or any of the other school farms in Okanagan County and actually been there with the students who are there and watched their excitement, and when they pick a carrot out of the ground, and they're big carrots. So when I say carrot, I'm not talking about a carrot stick. We're talking about a big full carrot that, they're valuable. And then you walk into the school and you see every kid walking around with these carrots and munching on these carrots for the day because they can't eat them in 5 minutes flat. So these are the kind of opportunities that we're seeing, is can we have a snack program that serves every student Classroom in Bloom food on a weekly basis? That's a big job. That's not any small thing to ask for. It's one thing to pilot the second grade classrooms, you know, for a few weeks. That's great, but to be able to go the next step and think about, like, what does that food service look like on a larger scale? We started doing harvest boxes during COVID. It's kind of similar to what you were talking about, Casey, where first we did them as a fundraiser where people were buying a box of harvested food, just a beautiful recipe, and you could buy one for room one at the same time. And it worked out beautifully. We had 30 plus boxes that were donated to room one, and people with the means purchased those, and we were able to deliver them, and Kelleigh and her staff delivered them to the folks that needed it the most. So that was the first step, and then what we realized is, like, this is so much, there's so much excitement about that. What if we did this with the students too? And so we started another program where we were harvesting seeds. Well, you know what happens if you harvest seeds for a local farmer, now you have a squash left over, and what do you do with all these squashes? Well, we started giving them to the students with a bunch of other ingredients and a recipe card to take home to their families. And so we did it for every fourth grader, and every sixth grader was able to take home a harvest box. And again, you're teaching the basics of, like, here's basic ingredients, this is what you can do with it. And if you can get one big squash and an onion and a couple cloves of garlic, you can do a lot with that with a really simple recipe. So we've made the recipes very accessible so that every student could go home with their families and hopefully would have some fun cooking. And so we continue to do that, and we'll do that multiple times throughout the whole winter, these cooking programs that we've created. And we've expanded, like I said, we've expanded. I was already doing it with Okanagan. We were in Brewster a couple weeks ago. We were up in Tonasket. We're doing another one with Tonasket in January. And we'll go back into the Methow Valley schools with some other unique foods for them to try at home with the leftover things that are just being stored in the cellar right now. So to come down to it is, again, creative ways to close the gap is making it accessible for all. And especially when talking about the students, schools are an amazing way to touch every single person to get that food out there. So the more we grow, the more we get to accomplish that.
That's great, Kim. Strong finish. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And it'd be kind of cool to see a robust gleaning system in the valley too. I think that would be another creative way that, you know, we could possibly get some more, cut down on food waste and put some more beautiful food on the table, and also kind of, you know, help our growers out a little bit too. So now we're going to open it up to all of yous. And if you have any questions in regards to these questions that we're asking, and I'd like to open up the floor and pass the mic around if any of you have questions for our panelists around this subject of food accessibility, or any ideas. If you have any creative ideas, if you have any answers to these questions, if you want to answer these questions, please raise your hand and I'll walk around with the mic. Don't be shy, there's a lot of you here. Come down the steps.
I haven't used one of these before. It sounds like it's working. The question I have for you is asking how the weather, you know, and then the bigger picture, the climate, kind of thing, how the weather has affected all of you or any of you for gardening or seasoning or timing or product output or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
We've definitely been affected by it a lot. Just like this year, all the early snow, it cut our grazing season short by like over a month, which means we're feeding more hay, which is expensive and more reliant on like fossil fuels for the harvested feeds. And we also then have, we're not able to cycle the nutrients as well in our field by grazing those and putting manure back in the field. And like this last spring, with how rainy it was, which was abnormal. It was in the middle of our lambing season when all the babies are being born, and it's just more challenging to be born in a rainstorm than when it's sunny and warm out. So I would say ongoing challenges with the climate, and it's only going to get harder.
I think from the farmers market perspective, the market season has been dramatically affected by wildfire smoke. So we had a couple of years where the people just weren't showing up as regularly as vendors. Certainly the farmers still have to show up because they are counting on that as a market. But then a lot of the crafters wouldn't show up, and so the market actually took a big financial hit over a couple of years and actually lost money, maybe for the first time in 43 years. So we had to, raise our fees a little bit, and but we luckily got a COVID grant, which it wasn't COVID that affected us; it was the smoke, but there wasn't a smoke grant. So anyway, got the COVID grant, and it all worked out for the time being. But and as a grower, certainly I was really surprised when our pear harvest this past fall was so affected by the previous year's heat dome. So it took some sleuthing, I think, on a lot of different people's parts to put all that together, but that happened, and fruit yields were greatly affected in the valley, and I'm sure in the whole county because of that.
I'll just mention, it's interesting because fruit yields have been really low. That's been interesting just to watch how, especially that heat from last year affected both last year and this year. But growing, I'm curious, Kelleigh, and lots of growers here, the Classroom and Bloom Farm, that little longer growing season has actually been incredible with the amount of harvest that we've been experiencing. So the beets got bigger, the carrots got bigger, everything just grew a little longer. We started a little earlier, we ended a little later, except for this year, but most of the harvest and the wild vegetables, where animals don't do so well, but vegetables do pretty, you're out by November anyways. So, I think we went from probably 3,500 to 6,000 to 6,600 pounds of food from a little 1.5 acre plot over the last couple of years. And part of that is because we grew more, like we planted more to grow more, but it was still pretty significant. They talk about how with climate change that the climate it's going from it's too hot down in the south, and it's too hot here too, but it's a short window and it starts earlier and ends later, and so this might be the next banana belt for for the U.S. With longer growing seasons, but who knows? I'm not a true farmer in that way, so I'd be taking other people's opinions on that, but we definitely have. I'll give a lot of credit to the farmers at Classroom and Bloom because they've definitely made a lot of harvest happen.
Thank you.
This is to producers to incentivize the present and future producers. Is there any one particular cost to farming that was, if it was eliminated by an outside source, would it enable a respectable income?
I think right now it's housing.
I think it's probably market access, because if you, we have, I think nationally a big problem is land access for farmers, and I feel like here that isn't that much of an issue because a lot of the farmland is owned by people that don't know how to use it or don't want to use it, but would love to see it used. But where it doesn't matter what you grow if you can't sell it.
Just a random idea on a way to do a little more access would be, and for multiple things, a bike path that goes up Twisp Road, Winthrop, and everything, and we have all the farms that do it. They have little farm stands, and then we could rent bikes that have coolers, and it could be a mobile farmers market that people could do. It could be a tourist attraction, it could bring people to the valley, and it's an easy way for people to make extra income.
I'll just add on to that, something that's been talked about kind of in some circles is the little library idea, but it's little farm stands or what do they call it? Like little pantries, I think that they're called. And the idea is that there's food pantries that are on different areas in small neighborhoods, and you take one, you leave one, or you just take just whatever's whatever you like. So it could be produce, but could also be anything else. So there's just an idea out there for someone who wants to jump on it.
This is all very interesting to me, things that I've been thinking about for a while as well. My name is Court Creighton, and I just launched a new business last month. Probably too new for most of you to hear about, but kind of getting in on this. And you guys are producers. I'm approaching from the value-added processing sort of part of it, where like you guys are saying, there has to be a market for the producers to sell their food and to make a living off of it. And so what we're doing with Methow Fresh is trying to process the raw produce that's produced here and then sell it to the people that are coming here, the tourists and even the people who are living here. And just so we have a good local market, so that all these things don't necessarily have to be shipped to Seattle or elsewhere to make a good income. We can at least use quite a bit here, and so that's kind of an angle that I'm working on, and it sounds like all this is working out. But I would like to talk to Casey afterwards about distribution. There's some things we can talk about there. So that is an angle that I'm working on, and also as far as access as well. A lot of lower income people are busy and even tired after working, and what we're doing is kind of having an in-between between fully prepared restaurant food that has sales tax and tip and all these extra things on it that is more expensive, and basic produce from the grocery store. We are hitting a price point in between that, and the kind of the twist that I'm working on that we do as far as our business model is we are selling cold food. It's refrigerated, so it qualifies as grocery item that doesn't have sales tax applied to it, and we're not necessarily we allow tips, but we're not relying on that. Our kitchen staff, our chefs, and our delivery drivers are compensated. So that's quite a bit to shave off, I think, for still allowing people to get fresh food, to get freshly made food, to save some time on dealing with kids or dealing with work or whatever it is there, where they can just pop something in the oven and cook it themselves, but kind of shave off some of the extras that somebody in that situation would really be. That's 10% there, 15% there. That kind of adds up pretty quick. So that's just an angle that I'm working on that I've kind of seen, and it's good to hear all the other ideas here. So thank you.
So we have time for one more question. Better perform now.
Hi everyone, I'm Monica. I grow seed, vegetable, flower, and herb seeds, and I'm interested in bringing up the concept of the gift economy into this conversation. Just sort of looking at capitalism not really serving that middle group, the whole way our economy works. And I'm not sure, I just want to put that out there that it's not really working, and shaving off little bits here and there, or giving away a little bit, it doesn't like fill the gap of between the rich and the poor. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's something I'm learning about, and I'm giving away some seeds. So if anyone wants some seeds, there's seeds in the back of the room for free. And there are also seeds for sale. But anyway, yeah, we got to make a living, but maybe we can make a living differently that is more collaborative and brings the collective to a more equal level rather than some people getting paid huge amounts of money for doing things that don't really, from an objective perspective, have any more value than people who are making almost no money, working just as hard. So anyway, just thought I'd put that out into the conversation.
Collective and collaborative, that's wonderful. That's a great way to move on to the next question. All right, y'all are back on. Okay, so this is a funny question. So this is the last question that we'll have of the evening, and it is, what is the most exciting change in the Methow Valley food system in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, in your mind's eye, what would that look like?
I'm going to bridge a little bit off of your collective and collaborative, and I don't actually know how this all works, but we have this fantastic Saturday farmers market, and I'm not trying to put a burden on our farmers in any way by anything I say here. But I feel like the one thing that I miss, and I feel like maybe a lot of us local residents miss, is you get a chance to go to a farmers market on Saturday and maybe pick up your CSA if you're not growing your own, but I have to go to the grocery store for the rest of the week to pick up my little items here and there that are kind of filling in gaps. And I think the ideal world, I could picture a collaborative effort somehow where there was a food exchange and you just had your own vegetables, or it was a farmer's market, but it was a small local something that was throughout the week. And I feel like that's something that I've had in different communities where there was a Wednesday market on the evenings, and it really did tend to be a very locals market because there wasn't a ton of tourists on a Wednesday evening. And it was after work, and it was only for a couple hours. But I could imagine in a few, 5, 10 years, whatever that looks like, I could imagine multiple markets in different areas of the valley. One down in Carlton that was really focused on people, like when you think about food deserts and you think about access, you need to be able to get there kind of quickly and get your food on a regular basis, not have to drive 30 miles on a Wednesday night to go find to the grocery store where there might be exuberant prices. Hanks is an exception to that, but it's expensive. It's expensive to buy from the grocery store. And so, anyways, just trying to, just dreaming, but that's one of my pieces of the puzzle that I think would be amazing.
That's great.
That's something that I think would be really cool to see in the future, is to be able to year-round get all the ingredients that you need that are produced locally, so you're not reliant on food coming in from other places, and that have enough farmers producing enough quantity and having the storing capacity as well to get you through the whole year on the food that's produced locally and not just seasonally.
Yeah, great ideas. I want to just harken back a little bit to the idea of access to being able to live and work here in this community, and especially as a farmer. And I think that it would be wonderful to have a farm apprentice program that was organized by somebody other than farmers. And so I'm not sure exactly who would do this, but have a support network. And I'm thinking about a parallel is the program that Joshua runs with Western Washington University, and having the interns in a really supported framework where they're learning together at certain times, and they're living together and socializing together, but then having some direct on-farm experience, so you can learn on the job, but that the farmer isn't responsible for that person 24/7, because during the farming season, that's a really difficult time to then be responsible for a 22-year-old who is not your own. So that's really come up for me a lot in the last few years, of having people on the farm and just feeling really taxed by that and by what it takes to kind of entertain someone as well as educate them and also help them evacuate or whatever it is. It's just a big added thing. And then if there was a support network for that group of people, I could see that also tying into, the Methow Conservancy has all of these agricultural easements, and most of that land is currently farmed, but as farmers and ranchers age out and away from their farms and land, who's going to fill those roles? And if we had a really robust farm education program here, which I think that we would be good at that, because we have fruit, we have vegetables, we have grain, we have meat, we do a lot here, and we have a lot to teach. So I think that those two things could dovetail, because then that education program could then feed into the agricultural easements and the farmland that's available. So that's one of my big hopes that we could pull off as a valley. And then, I am really attuned to creating more food streams, more avenues of how food can be distributed. And I've had some exciting conversations in the last year with people on the Colville Reservation and trying to get more fresh food over to tribal nations. And there's a lot of people on that, the other end of that are ready to receive and put some things together. And so figuring that out feels really important. Another, just going back to the school idea, having more funds available to purchase food. So at different times, the school has had different pots of money to buy, a large quantity of potatoes. They bought a whole cow one time. And I would just love to see more of that. If they could be eating their local lamb and beef and maybe buy all of the potatoes that my neighbors, the Channings, grow, so they don't have to drive them to Seattle. So just making those connections. So yeah, just having more funding for things like that. And then the third stream that I see is, and this is an idea that came from Anna Casey. I don't think Anna made it tonight, but she came here from Port Townsend, and the Jefferson County Hospital in Port Townsend, I guess they get all local produce and all local meat, and then they have a chef who knows how to prepare it all. And so their hospital is serving local food year round. And I didn't know about that, and I thought, wow, we have these two hospitals really close by that are pretty small, and scale-wise, you could almost imagine something like that happening. Again, we just have so much fresh food here in Okanagan County, particularly fruit and meat. So that's something I would love to see, and so of course, we can all come up with great ideas, but who's going to do it? Who's going to do that work? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think having an organization or an arm of an organization or an initiative that could tackle some of these bigger areas would be really important, whether it's the education program or actually getting food into the hands of those people. So, thanks.
Well, that's good. I was wondering, they asked us the most, and I was going to say, what's the plural of most? Mostest. Yeah, because that's what I could come up with. Yeah, well, not for me, in looking at that, the first thing was increased access to quality food for people in need. And so that, when you're talking about what are you looking at, what's your dream, I just dream about that. Because when I see that, the quality food, it comes from a community that's really working on something, and so it's a goal. It has to be valued. And the second thing I thought about, we've talked about that tonight, is having community gardens and having this expanded. And like you said, there's property all over, and it's not going to probably include producing and selling. It's going to be producing and giving, or producing and sustaining of yourself. And then the third thing that I think is so important is a sustainable Methow. 15 years ago or so, the Conservancy had for their first Tuesday meetings, and he said, can we have a sustainable Methow? And I'm not just talking food, I'm talking about the whole thing. And they went all through this work of how can we live. And we have to face the fact that things are changing. And what I always hear, well, let's see, this is going to be cut off, we're going to have a strike for there, we're going to have an earthquake, or the end of the world, or whatever. But whatever it is, there's a way that I think a community like the Methow can have a sustainable plan. It might not be realistic, but you didn't ask for realistic.
You don't start with realistic, you start with a dream and then build off of that.
Imagination. We have what it takes to put that together. We have the hearts to share with one another and the knowledge how to do it. And I don't always think we have to wait for the necessity. We have to begin to say, this is valuable, let's figure out how we can do it. Sustainable manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Maria, I think you were the one that said access to healthy, fresh food is a right and not a privilege, and let's make it so. And I think that's what you're saying, Glenn, too. I think that's what we're all saying. And to really make that a reality, I think it does take looking at the whole ecosystem of what does it take to really produce food at scale, then so everybody has some and everyone can get access to it and you can sustain yourself while you're growing it. You can people who are working on that front to do things at scale, you need more staff, you need more workers, and those workers need to live here in the valley. So thinking about that as an ecosystem again of home share programs, land share programs, having childcare and elder care being part of that land base so that everyone can take care of what they need, even while they're growing the food together and even while they're processing the food together. And so this is truly, genuinely an ecosystem problem and challenge in all senses of that word, the human ecosystem as well as the natural one. And I agree that we have the creativity and the mad skills out there to make it happen. I think the other component that I would really, that I think is, it's the reality and is part of the dream, is extending these cooking classes that all these folks offer, because so many of our folks, they just haven't had the experience of shopping. If you have $25 to spend for a week for your family of 4, what do you buy in the grocery store, or what do you get out of the garden that will help that money stretch? So really being able to shop, acquire, find, and process and cook healthy food for yourself and for your family. Those skills, we need to keep sharing them, and we can, because we know what they are. So thanks.
That's a beautiful vision. Yeah. And I think just to add on to that, the vision that I would love to see as well is no one going hungry in this valley. Everyone has access to fresh local food, and they're not going hungry. And we're growing it in a way that heals the land, and we're doing it in a way that supports the people who are growing our food. It's such an honor for us to be able to eat locally grown food, and the amount of work that goes into the harvesting and the caring for the land. It's tremendous what they do. It's tremendous sacrifice, especially without being able to afford health insurance, without being able to make a living wage. And we need to change this system. We really need to take a look at it and start making some changes. And seeing so many people out here right now that really care about this topic, I think there's a lot of, we can move the needle together. So on that note, I'd love to close it out and allow everyone to say their final remarks before we wrap it up for the evening.
Those were final remarks. I just say thanks so much for coming and for braving the the roads out there. Just everybody be safe on the way home. That's all I have to add.
Thank you so much. Good night.